Bringing together diverse voices and roles in agriculture is crucial to educate the public about the truth and importance of our industry. We are honoring those stories and people who are sharing experiences and solutions so that we can work towards a stronger future for our nation. Without agriculture, we cannot survive. Listen to Ag Talk. Your story matters on Rural Radio XM 147.
Welcome to Ag Talk, where your story matters. It doesn't matter if you have 2 followers or 2 million. Your voice has a place here. Have you been thinking about sharing your story and becoming an Ag Women Connect member? If you're listening to this podcast, you're in luck because you can get 10% off today. Simply go to agwomenconnect.com, sign up to become a member, and use Podcast 10 at checkout. We can't wait to meet you and hear your story. Hey everybody, this is Venessa Wood with Ag Talk, Your Story Matters. And today I am sitting down with a new friend that I have met over the summer, Miss Lori Taylor from Indiana. She is also known as the Produce Mom. She's got a fabulous business that supports women in the production fields. But first of all, we're going to get into all the details about what she does. But first, Lori, welcome to today's podcast.
Oh, Vanessa, it's great to be here. Thank you so much. And I absolutely applaud everything that you're doing with Ag Women Connect. I really enjoyed learning more about the foundation and all of the students and the young adults that this organization, through your nonprofit work, is supporting as it relates to, really attracting more talent to our industry and getting great rising stars on the farms. That's what we need.
Absolutely. So Lori and I got to meet each other face to face back in June, but we've also been a part of America's First Policy, their outreach, and I've seen her beautiful face on Zooms, I feel like for the last year. So I want to say all this because I just love how God places people into your life for a reason. And we were called to Washington, D.C., in June to come meet with Brooke Rollins, and I finally got to meet her and we just really hit it off, and we got to go to the big beautiful breakfast together, and some people took a tour of the USDA, and of course we are celebrating agriculture at the American Fair, and it was just a great couple of days that we got to spend together. And then I told her about our event that we were having in Wyoming. We just got back and we celebrated the American Cowboy and Cowgirl and had a Day of the West reception, which was amazing. And within just those few short weeks of those 2 events, Lori helped me partner with Nature's Sweet Tomatoes, which was a godsend. They ended up sponsoring our reception. So I just want to say this to the women out there who are listening, and I know I probably sound like a broken record here, Lori, but just don't underestimate the power of networking and putting yourself out there. Sarah Fallon said it best this week is, I feel like a lot of women will open the door for you, but it's up to you to step through that door and to take action and to do your part. And so anyways, I just wanted to brag on Lori because she was a really big help, and I was really praying for another sponsor to come in and help, and we just love those guys over at Nature's Sweet Tomatoes, so huge shout out to them. They are a women-ran organization, so it was really great to see corporate come and us all celebrate together. But, okay, back to Lori. I want to know all about you. You live in Indiana. You're beautiful inside and out. You're a mother. So tell us a little bit about your background, where you grew up. I know this is a big question, but how you got to where you are today.
Well, thank you, Vanessa. So my very first entry into the produce industry and really the agriculture supply chain, being from Indianapolis, Indiana, most of your listeners can probably imagine I did not grow up on the farm. As a matter of fact, I'm part of the faction that has never farmed a day in my life, yet my job totally depends on ag. And so for 10 years, I worked in the supply chain at wholesale distribution, selling fruits and vegetables to grocery retailers. And during that time, I was servicing over 300 grocers, all sorts of different sizes and formats, from as far north as Minnesota all the way south to Florida. So that entire like central corridor of the United States, that was where our customer base was at and our delivery footprint. And I learned so much. And the biggest thing that I learned was, wow, like food connects us all, and it was so beautiful. I could call like the North Shore of Chicago grocer where Oprah Winfrey's chef shopped. That was one of my customers. And I was selling some of the same things that like an East Washington Street bodega that literally had, steel bars on the windows and on West Washington Street in Indianapolis was also buying. And so I thought that was one of those moments that I come back to a lot with my career and the way that I approach what we do as a greater purpose. We bring people together every single day working in agriculture. And one of the most beautiful things that we can do as humans is gather around a table and enjoy a meal together. And that is something that, every emotion that we experience in life, that is often like one of the common threads, whether you're romanticizing, grieving, celebrating, you're really sad and you're looking for a pick-me-up, all of those emotions, you sit down at a table with people you love and you break bread together, you have a meal together. Also, I learned so much about culture being rooted in food at that stage. I would have so many of these produce department managers I would call, or, going back to the fact that I had such a vast array of customer bases. When we think about the grocery retail sector in this country, like I said, the luxury retailers, like those North Shore Chicago independent grocers where famous people shop. You've got your big box stores like your Kroger's, Costco's, etc. And then you've got all sorts of other formats. I learned a lot from like the independently owned College Juice Bar in Madison, Wisconsin that I was taking care of. They taught me so much about the healing nature of foods and why sourcing from certain regions at different times of year really mattered. And so I share all of this, Venessa, because it really lays the foundation for the work that I do today. And in addition to taking care of all those customers, my former employer had a fresh cut processing facility in-house. So in addition to, all the food that was moving in and out, we also had a facility that was subject to USDA inspection. And I really got an appreciation for, things like food safety and all of the different critical factors that keep our food supply safe in this country. And also understood, of course, the regulatory side because of that, having all of that USDA inspection taking place, despite the fact that, most people would just describe us as a warehouse, a middleman. But what I did learn, I was talking, especially when I got involved with the sourcing, I started talking more to the growers or the farmers. And that's really when my fascination with the on the farm side of the seed to smile journey really captivated my soul. And it was 2012. At this time, my job at Indianapolis Fruit Company had somewhat evolved to where I wasn't just doing sales and procurement support. I was also now doing a lot of marketing. And so I pitched the idea like, hey, we're very uniquely positioned in the supply chain where we can talk about everything that is sold in the produce department. Because at the end of the day, Venessa, like even someone like me, ultra passionate about fruits and vegetables, I don't have capacity in my life to opt into marketing and messaging 365 days a year about all the different varieties that are in the produce department. Most of your produce department today, you're talking about over 1,000 different SKUs. Even your small independent neighborhood grocers, over 200 SKUs usually of options of different fruits and vegetables that you can buy. So it's really tough for our industry. We don't have unified messaging. And if you're a spinach farmer, you really don't care about supporting what the orange farmers are doing, so believe it or not, in 2012 felt like, wow, we have identified a real void in this global supply chain that where there's no one doing comprehensive marketing about all things produce to the consumer. And so that is how the Produce Moms was born. It started as a free WordPress blog that I authored in my cubicle in tandem to my marketing and sales responsibilities. So it was my work for hire. And then in 2015, my former employers took me out to an offsite lunch, and I knew something was up, but I really didn't know this was up. And they told me that they were done with the Produce Mom and that I had two options. I could either buy it, like buy my work for hire, buy the blog, or I could go back to my job as a sales manager only. And at that time, it was like, that was my huge crossroads. That was also my entrepreneurial leap. I knew right away that, the only path forward for my heart was to buy the Produce Moms and carry on. But I did not have the resources for that. My husband and I, we were, two young kids in daycare. We just did not have the money. The initial paperwork was $300,000 to buy my work for hire. And I mean, there was no way. So through some negotiations, we were able to get that price down. But it was still, when push came to shove, and in August 2015, when I closed on the business, it was still more than what we paid for the home we were living in. And it wouldn't have been possible without family support because we weren't getting approved for a loan, So there's kind of a tell-all for that, like in episode 1 of the Produce Moms podcast. But gosh, what a humbling and just faith-filled journey that was, to know that my family believes in me. We're all going through this together. Like when I go back to those early days, it definitely is heartwarming, and equally heartwarming and just emotional for me to relive that, because it was such a pivotal moment, not just in my life, but my entire family's life.
Yeah. Oh, I can't imagine, but good for you for just seeing it for what it was, and just moving forward with it. And, that's the faith part that we always talk about. Folks, I feel like in agriculture, just they understand it because they have so many variables thrown at them. I don't think they can get through life without the Lord. So, and then he rewards us, for stepping out into that faith. And I love brave. That your family was a part of that too.
Well, and Vanessa, the risk taking, like the farmers taught me that, and that's what I told some of my mentors and friends when I was at that crossroads. I was like, gosh, like these are the values of American agriculture, just in a different lens, and so where are we today? I mean, so today, over 10 years now of being the founder and the owner of the Produce Moms, the brand has evolved quite a bit. Our foundation nothing's really changed. It's just we have broader impact. So still today, our mission is to get more fruits and vegetables on every table. And we are really committed to educating our community on the benefits of eating fresh produce, the growing process, and how to select, store, and serve your fruits and veggies. And we operate, myself, my team, everyone who works with our business, they understand the Produce Moms has 3 core values where everything we do comes back to these 3 core values. First, we believe that fruits and vegetables are delicious, nutritious, convenient, and affordable. Second, we absolutely believe in a world where both career and family can thrive. And last, we believe that moms can change the way America eats. And so with those values and with our mission to get more fruits and vegetables on every table, and the halo effect that we strive to have on helping people understand how their food is raised or grown, that is what has built our audience today into what it is. So when I acquired the brand in 2015, we had like 45,000 annual visitors to the website. And today we get that, every few days. So over 2 million engaged monthly users on our website and broader, digital content platforms. Podcast has been going strong since 2018. We have licensed and branded products sold at grocery retailers. So also sold at convenience stores, K-12 school cafeterias nationwide. So some of the listeners maybe have experienced the Produce Moms brand on your, through a baked potato that you bought, Idaho potato that you bought at Walmart, or one of the snack trays that you picked up at 7-Eleven or Kroger. Those are examples of products that carry our brand and our Produce Moms approved seal across grocery retailers nationwide. And we also have partnerships with Amazon Alexa, Samsung Food, and with those syndication partnerships, we're reaching over 80 million Americans per month. So very proud of the message, but the biggest thing that I'm proud of is the fact that, you know, we've always stayed true to our vision and our purpose. If for anyone listening today, like if you come visit theproducemoms.com or even our social media, you're just going to see a lot of educational content. Like, this is not an effort to make me micro famous by any means. And this is really an effort to advance a mission. It's bigger than one person. And it's why, you know, when I acquired the brand, it was The Produce Mom. And it was after a couple years, I was like, gosh, we need to rebrand this. And so today we are The Produce Moms, very community centric, all about collective impact. And we really do believe that we can change the way America eats from our kitchen tables.
I love it. And from seeds to smiles. That's so cute.
Yes. Yes. It has been quite the journey, but wow, how awesome is it that, you know, folks like you and I, through this crazy journey, you know, here we are connected and driving impact together.
Well, I want to learn a lot more about how people can get involved with you. But before that, we're going to take a quick break. Hang on, we'll be right back with the rest of Lori Taylor's story. Okay, we are back from the break. So, Lori, tell us a little bit more. If you are a producer, how do they partner with you and what does that look like for them?
Yeah, so we've worked with a lot of different agricultural producers, you know, everything from crop protection and seed companies to, you know, even complementary items like, you know, salad dressings, dips, like anything that is adjacent. And then, of course, certainly, you know, we even just recently partnered with the cotton industry's Plant Not Plastic campaign to help educate folks on natural fibers and the importance of choosing natural fibers, not just for American agriculture, but also for anyone that has, you know, personal goals to mitigate exposure to microplastics. People don't realize how much of that comes through, you know, our clothing. So I say that just to emphasize, we have an offering for really anyone that has a stakeholder in the value set that we have. The best way for companies to learn more about the Produce Moms, visit theproducemoms.com. We do have our media kits published. You can learn more about our company and the audience demos and everything, that all the different ways we tell the stories. You know, Venessa, I love that about you. Like, you are so leaning into everything about, like, your story matters. Tell your story. I couldn't agree with you more. And that is really one of our core offerings. And we do everything from content marketing executions. You know, we can do pretty much anything that a brand might need as it relates to content, to brand ambassadorship campaigns. We do advocacy work for different brands, you know, grassroots level advocacy to support advancing the mission of, you know, hey, we want people to eat real food. We want fresh produce and USA beef. We want all these products to be as accessible as possible for the home kitchen. And we have to help people understand and differentiate, like, become more discerning consumers when they walk into the grocery store. And the only way they're going to be more discerning is if they are, you know, better educated about our supply chains and the agricultural producers. So that is all stuff that we do at the Produce Moms. And, you know, one of my favorite things too is when we have I know that everyone's wanting these new age media, you know, whether it's podcasting or what's happening on social or any of those things. But I'll tell you what, one of our most impactful ways to reach folks is through a monthly cooking show that I do. Live lifestyle media. It's syndicated to over 20 media markets coast to coast. And that has been a great storytelling medium and education platform for the Produce Moms and advancing our mission.
Tell me more. Okay, are you cooking? Are you on the video?
Yes, I'm cooking. It's crazy. Have you ever cooked on live TV?
Well, I love that. I've done recipes.
Yeah.
And Yeah.
So I'm not every day. I couldn't do it every day. It's too much work. So when I am on, I have the top of the show and the bottom of the show are the cooking segments. They're 5 to 7 minutes, depending on how the rest of the hour-long show is produced. So within that 5 to 7 minute segment, I demonstrate at least 3 recipes every time I'm on. And so that's like real, but it sounds like a ton, and it would be if I wasn't overly prepared. Like I do a lot of like, okay, here's the final plate. We prepare that in advance, and then we have some in-process prep stuff already ready to go. And then we have all of the ingredients like in their whole, so we can walk people through that whole journey. Like, okay, here's what it looks like. I'm going to show you how to make it now, So we do that times 3, and we always tier it out. We have, as it relates to our mission of getting more fruits and vegetables on every table, I mean, we have to help educate people on not just increased volume of fresh produce, but increased variety, because we are all guilty of this. Like I myself, we have the same 5 to 10 meals that we cook on repeat that we know how to prepare for our family. We all have our favorites. Like, how can we get people more excited about exploring, especially the produce department where there are so many choices, and there really isn't a wrong choice. It's just different choices, So that's one of the critical goals I have. And, this is my favorite fun fact to share. So I've been doing live lifestyle media. It's filmed at Lifestyle Live, which is here in Indianapolis. I've been on that show as a contributor since 2012, 2013 season. And not once have I repeated a recipe, because that is how much we can all do with our cooking. There is literally like no ceiling to how you can create and inspire and delight your families in your own home kitchen.
Well, you answered my question, because I was like, do you do this from your house, or do you have a studio to go to? How many times a week do you do it?
Oh gosh, I only have a total of 2 segments per month. So that helps make it very manageable, especially because I don't want to crowd up my schedule with being, tied to a television studio obligation, when there is so much more that, I and the brand need to be present at to support the mission. Yeah. So that's been great. But yeah, during COVID, I did everything from my home kitchen, because the lifestyle shows, they due to all the rules, like we couldn't come in. So everything was live from my home kitchen. And I had, when some of the other lifestyle shows like Good Morning Nashville had me on as a regular contributor at that time, Lifestyle Live, Good Morning Arizona, like there's a lot of, when people know that you can do something like that, then they're like, oh, okay, we need you too. Because everyone needs content. It's not just creators like you and I, everyone needs content.
Yeah. Oh, but what a way to connect with people. Just like you said earlier, everybody can connect over food. What is one of the favorite recipes that you cook for your family?
Okay, so
what's
I am
staple?
Such an Indiana girl here. I've got 2 teenage boys. So there's 2 answers to this. The first is the boys want steak. We all like steak. So that's their favorite meal, is like ribeyes or New York strips on the grill or on the Traeger with a baked potato and like something green. It can be broccoli, green beans, asparagus, spinach, but that is like, my husband, my 2 teenage sons are very happy if that's what's for dinner. They would probably all collectively say that the best meal that I cook is chicken parm. It's funny, like I don't have a culinary heritage. I don't have like a really strong, my family tree has a lot of different ethnicities. We're not really we're not an Italian family by any means. Like I'm kind of half German, half Irish with my ancestry, but that recipe is just one that they all really like. And for years, I worked at one of Indianapolis's longest standing. It's been in business over 100 years now. Family-owned restaurant. It's very impressive, but Italian format, Sicilian style Italian. So I learned a few tricks, on Friday and Saturday nights, waitressing and expoing food and getting to know all my coworkers. And so I kind of credit that stage of my life with my ability to cook a really good chicken parm.
Yum.
So here's my trick, Vanessa. I always
Okay.
tell people, and this is something I do for myself, and anytime I have a chance to, share insights with others. We all get fatigue in our home kitchen, and like there are other components of the meal that are more enticing than your produce sometimes. So this is the ultimate cheat code. Prep the fruits and vegetables first. Make those available right away. Even if you're serving them in the raw, fresh form, but if you prep them first, you're not going to run out of time, because it is an ordeal to do home cooked meals. It is, you do get to the point where you're like, oh God, not another dirty dish. Or, oh, I'm so sick and tired of cutting things up. I don't want to dirty the cutting board. All of that is real talk. So if you just start with your fresh produce, with your prep and with making it available, you will find that just that act alone will drive forward or drive up your family's consumption.
Absolutely. Or just even advance the option of like, hey, I'm actually going to cook tonight. It's a lot easier when you have things prepped, Lori. I mean, it is for me. And when we get in and back with school, my schedule is a little bit more relaxed, and I love to prep usually on Sunday or Mondays, at least 2 or 3 meals for the week. And it just makes it so much easier.
What about you, Vanessa? What's your family's favorite dinner?
I'm kind of right there with you too. Steak is awesome. I made chicken spaghetti the other night, but I don't try to do the processed stuff. So if I can use fresh tomatoes, fresh grated cheese, not the packaged cheese, by the way, that's not good for you. Just like buy the block of cheese and grate it, and it tastes so much better. And then sometimes I'll throw corn and olives into that, but we kind of mix it up every once in a while. But chicken spaghetti is a kind of an all-time fave, but it's definitely a comfort food. So I don't cook it often, because it's got a ton of calories in it. But we like things with like beef stroganoff. I'm really right now, this is what I'm doing after this podcast. And I am going to go buy some fresh vegetables for my friend down the road, and I'm going to make fresh gumbo.
What do you put in it? Just the corn, the peppers, okra, or what do you put in it?
Yes, okra, zucchini, and squash, tomatoes, onion, usually some fresh herbs. And then if I want to add shrimp or chicken or sausage, I'll do that too. So you can mix it in with that as well. And then you just serve it over rice. And I honestly think, Lori, it's one of those meals that if you put in the fridge, it's better the day after. So like I will eat gumbo for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I love that. That's great. Well, okay. So, and here's, this comes back to some of my early sentiments about food as culture. So one day you're going to have people, your family, every time they see gumbo, they're going to think of you, and they're going to think of these family dinners and mom running to buy the vegetables from the neighbor. And I just want to remind everyone about our ability to create rich culture within our families, simply, like heirloom level family culture from our kitchen tables. It really is beautiful, and it doesn't take much.
It reminds me of music too. When you listen to your favorite song, it usually reminds you of a good memory or a person. So, I mean, hey, girl, you cannot go wrong with cooking dinner, having a glass of wine, and listening to your favorite music.
That's like my perfect night, actually, Vanessa. That's exactly what I want to do when I envision the best day ever. And I do think, too, it's important that we strip the guilt that people have, especially as it relates to, from my point of view, with the desk I have and the responsibilities that we have at the Produce Moms to inspire people around the concept of eating more fruits and vegetables. It is really important that you understand when you are choosing a fruit or a vegetable, you are making an excellent choice. Stop right there. Because the truth is, in America today, 90% of us are not eating the recommended amounts of fruits and vegetables on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. And when we think about different demographics, like say we're going to talk about the teenage demographic, 98% of teenagers are not eating the recommended amounts of fruits and vegetables on a daily basis. And so the last thing I want people getting hung up on is, oh, should I be eating this variety or that variety? Or should it be, organically grown only, or conventionally grown, or greenhouse grown, or locally grown, or natural, blah, blah, blah. It's just like, you know what? The start and the finish line is in the produce department. Just choose more fruits and vegetables more often, and choose what fits into your family's preferences. What a beautiful nation we have, where we actually have all those choices, where we can go into the grocery store, and if you want, a vegetable that is local, organic grown, you can oftentimes get it. And if you are wanting to buy the vegetable and you really, you're like, I'm buying based off budget, or I'm buying based off what looks fresh, and that the product that looks the best to you or is the most appealing to you is the conventionally grown product, then buy it and eat it and enjoy it. There is so much that you can be confident about, and as it relates to your decision to eat more fruits and vegetables.
I'm so glad that you pointed that out. Yep.
Yeah.
Sometimes I buy organic, sometimes I don't, and I'm okay with, either one.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I'll tell you what, lately I've been spending a lot more time focusing on the price of food when I grocery shop. And it's twofold, okay, right? Like, I've got 2 teenage boys, so we're going through more groceries. And then also the price of food is certainly up. And so a lot more of my purchasing decisions are rooted in the budget versus what looks good, or what kind of farming style, or is there a specific brand I'm loyal to? Like, some of those qualifiers are out the window when the reality is like, I just dropped $500 at Walmart, and I don't know if I'm going to feed my hungry family for the week with that. There's a lot of different variables and pressures that we're all facing. And at the end of the day, it's the food you're putting into your own body. So you know better than any other subject matter expert knows what's best for you. Don't think that what some influencer says is what's best for you and your family. Eat real food is real. We should all agree, like, let's eat nutrient dense real food. And supporting our American farmers is absolutely critical. And we can, maybe after the break, talk more about how our policy passions and our patriotism is what brought us together.
Say less.
Yeah. But as it relates, Venessa, to all this noise about fruits and vegetables, I'm like, none of us are eating the recommended amounts. So let's start let's simplify this. The more produce more often is a good thing. And there is an abundant amount of science and research out there. If you want organically grown food, great, go get it. But do not ever feel guilt because you're buying conventionally grown, ever.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, this is a great place to take a break. We're going to be back with Lori, and we're going to talk a little bit more about policy and how that is shaping agriculture today. Okay, Lori, let's start with the pyramid that Brooke Rollins flipped, because I think that was a true game changer for the American farmer and rancher.
Absolutely. I was able to interview Dr. Ben Carson right before that food pyramid flipped, just to kind of get like a little preview. And I was pressing him. I'm like, okay, how am I going to feel from a fruit and vegetable passionary point of view? How am I going to feel about this? He's like, you're going to love it. And I can't tell you how much I love it. I love it. And I think it's realistic. Venessa, we've had every single special interest related to vegan lifestyle and everything you could imagine come out saying that you're for fruits and vegetables. And the next thing you know, people want you denouncing, other sectors of ag. Very early on, even when I really needed that money, like I was saying, I was like, that is not authentic. It's not what we stand for. We stand for, a balanced whole meal. And we know that protein needs to have that center of the plate presence. And we know that your complementary items should be nutrient dense, fresh produce. And we know that things like, processed cereals, they have a place in all of our busy lives, but they're not at the broadest part of our food pyramid, So I absolutely love the message. I love the simplified approach. It's common sense, which I know this administration has been priding themselves on, but this really is common sense approach to nutrition, eat real food. And we've heard this message in various ways through the years, like ingredients you can pronounce. Well, they're taking a step further and they're like, no, actually, like, eat real food. Like, really, processed food is not where it's at. We want you eating fresh, real food.
While you're on that note, Lori, let's talk about the misconceptions about food. You brought up common sense, and I've always said, hey guys, if you're looking at something, usually, we know that the middle aisles of the grocery store are usually more of your processed food, but let's just take it, for instance, if you pick up spaghetti sauce. All right. So I feel like people have started to realize like what all is in spaghetti sauce, like how much sugar is in your spaghetti sauce, and there, how many ingredients are in these sauces. And I say, if it's usually over 5 ingredients, then you might want to think twice about it. Right. If you can't read or say the ingredients on that can of food, then, I probably would say it's not good for you. And I've seen a change there because we cook spaghetti all the time. And I think the sauce that I use now has 3 ingredients to it. So, but anyways, I never really thought about sugar. In my early years, Lori, Prego and ragu. I mean, everybody ate Prego and ragu, and I didn't ever think twice about it. But back to misconceptions. What do you think are some of the misconceptions that are just misleading people when it comes to their food?
Yeah, I think the term natural is a real problem as it relates to food marketing. I think that's a biggie. There's times where even I will say it because it is a descriptive word that, like, in our minds, it makes sense. You want to eat natural food. Well, there's natural Cheetos, for Christ's sake. Like, what does this mean, So I think that's a term that unfortunately food marketers have really changed the meaning of it. I understand why they did it, to sell more product for a broader consumer populace that was skewing more interested in health and wellness and wanting to shift their choices to being more health focused. So enter the natural Cheetos, right? But it does create some confusion. We deal with it a lot in produce. We dealt with a lot. The noise on GMO has really simmered down for us in produce. But, we would have commodities where the GMO version of a grape doesn't exist. But you better believe that the grape marketers were putting non-GMO on, like the non-GMO project on their seal on their package. Yeah. And that created a lot of consumer confusion. And it also really created a lot of consumer confusion about why does bioengineering exist in agriculture? We applaud the pivot and the redirection that we are seeing in the produce department as it relates to non-GMO callouts and labeling. I never really liked them. It's nice to see that happening where it's shifting away. And if you are really passionate about avoiding GMOs, then there are defined styles of farming that are like, you cannot be USDA certified organic and be genetically modified. So choose that. That's a perfect opportunity for you to shift your purchasing behavior. But what we're not going to do at the Produce Moms, we're not going to drive our category forward by throwing shade at a different direction. And I think that's happened too much in not just produce, but in all of food marketing. And it's created a lot of consumer confusion around an industry that at its core is wholesome and for the family. And that is, agriculture. So, I see it, Venessa, from your world with the beef. I was so thrilled. I was in attendance at the USDA when the new U.S. product of the USA label was launched. And I encourage anyone who qualifies for that, get that label on your package. Right. That is an example of a label we need, because there is, until MCOOL or if MCOOL ever becomes a thing, that is clarity that consumers need, and it can advance our domestic producers forward. So what a great thing that new label is. I would say that is it's kind of some of those sneaky marketing, strategies, what goes on package, gets people thinking that food that I wouldn't categorize as healthy, like I don't think a dietitian would categorize as healthy. Like people are misunderstanding it as a healthy choice. And then as it relates to sourcing and things like that, like with the product of the USA label and beef and I think that it's available chicken, eggs, beef. That's great transparency and clarity. So the more transparent and clear that we can be with our industry, the better. Venessa, we just had that terrible outbreak in the produce department it was food service, not so much retail, but as you can imagine, like a lettuce outbreak at food service kills, your lettuce sales at retail too. There were some things that were done really well in that fiasco with, Taylor Farms and the lettuce. And then there were some things that were done very poorly. Here's the reality of that. When it comes to things like food safety, customer transparency, sustainability, these are big macro goals where there is never really a finish line. It's a constant state of improvement. So here's what I want to say on that. The issue right now is the fact that by the time we have folks who, unfortunately get sick from a food safety issue, they collect that data, they being the FDA, collect the data and create the pattern and understand the commonality, trace it back to who the potential supplier is, do the testing. We're talking several days that takes. And the products that we sell and represent in the produce industry, oftentimes by the time that process for mandatory or voluntary recalls takes place, that process is longer than the shelf life of the products that are implicated. So that creates a lot of consumer misunderstanding. Like we will, as a produce industry, lettuce sales will plummet for the next several months, if not through the remainder of this year because of this recent outbreak. That's tough, right? But it's really hard to get people to understand, like, there's a lot of different varieties of lettuce that were never implicated in this voluntary recall. Most of the supply was isolated to food service. None of what you're seeing at grocery retail was even involved. Like, these are supply chain discussions that, like, the common consumer we can't expect them to understand that. So I think the only thing that I'll remind the audience on today is like just the fact that, we do need to keep focused on consistent improvement, and process improvement can always take place. And as it relates to like the recent food safety outbreak with fresh produce, I was telling one of my mentors and peers in the produce industry, Kathy Burns, she's the CEO of the International Fresh Produce Association. And I told her, I said, none of us have promised a risk-free experience. No one in food and beverage, and certainly no one in ag, has promised a risk-free experience. However, we should always promise transparency. Those are things, when I evaluate the grocery store overall, Venessa, those are things that I'm like, okay, process improvement. Those are the things that I would like to see improved.
I didn't read up about that issue with the lettuce, and I didn't even know it came from Taylor Farms, but I mean, that is a reality. I mean, it's not the first time and it's not going to be the last time it happens. So
it will not. You're right. They've taken a lot of heat through all this. And I will say, when you are the category leader, when you own the majority of the market, like you're going to have more, it's just probability statistics, like, math. You're going to have, unfortunately, more outbreaks than companies that are responsible for a far smaller share of the market. So they're a great company, no relation to me. Everyone asks me that, but I'm like, no, I kind of wish, but no. But they've done so much to drive our industry forward. They've made great investments in broader industry initiatives, just as you would expect from any sector leader. It's unfortunate. And it wasn't really our place at the Produce Moms to drive that discussion. That's another thing. I never felt like we were the appropriate voice for that. I had all these media outlets reaching out, and I was like, you really need to talk to the people who are handling, the crisis communication and the food safety outbreaks, not the Produce Moms. And also, our mission is rooted in such positive, happy lifestyle, Yes,
Yeah.
we had prepared statements if we received inquiry, but no, we're not going to be a source of another headline on some of these live wire topics. And honestly, Vanessa, it hindered my brand growth to not look at the brand growth that entities like, Food Babe had, who launched their blogs at the same time in that same era that the Produce Moms launched. But I'm not hitching my wagon to those live wire headlines. I'm just not.
Yeah. That's really cool that you just said that, because that's another thing that you and I have in common, and I will stay true to that as well.
Yes. So I will say, to bring it back to the advocacy and policy, I have been so enriched as an agriculture just catalyst and passionary and activist by getting myself out of the produce department, by getting myself out of the fruit and vegetable silo and hearing more from people like Venessa and so many of these other people that are part of our Rural Voices crew. But learning more about what's happening in other sectors of ag actually has empowered me to be a stronger advocate for what's happening in the sector I serve. When you can speak educated and passionately about the broader lens of domestic agriculture, all that does is strengthen your own position and your own core focus. So I have really enjoyed getting to know you, Venessa, and the broader rural affairs group that we're both part of.
Yeah, I'm really blessed, and I just sometimes I kind of pinch myself sometimes, because even I feel like, I'm not even worthy to have some of those conversations with some of the people that are a part of that group. But I'm like, nope, stop that.
Yeah.
We're all valuable, just like what they said today. And it's been very refreshing to see that we have a Secretary of Agriculture who truly listens and takes action and has a great group of people around her.
I completely agree. I've never been so impressed with the cross-agency collaboration too. We started this segment talking about the food pyramid. What a beautiful collaboration that's been between Health and Human Services and USDA to really drive forward America by getting us all to eat real food. So it's been great. And also, I would be remiss to not mention this, especially on this podcast. I want all the farmers and ranchers out there to know food security is national security. The work you're doing, it is truly the foundation of freedom. And you all have been great inspiration for us at the Produce Moms. We recently launched, as part of our celebration of America's 250th, we launched the 50 States of Agriculture. It's available now at theproducemoms.com. I would love for you all to check it out.
That's right. Food security is national security. Well, thank you so much, Lori, for coming on. I know that we could talk for hours, but this was great, and we're going to have you back soon and talk about more of what you're doing. I don't even know how you do it all, but
the same way you do, with a lot of prayers and grace.
Amen to that, girl. Well, okay, you said they can go to your website at producemoms.com, correct?
Yep, theproducemoms.com, producemoms.com, any of those varieties will get you to where we're at, but it's theproducemoms.com.
Perfect. Again, thank you so much, Lori.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Ag Talk. Your story matters. Make sure to tune in every Tuesday for new episodes and learn more about us and our mission at agwomenconnect.com. You can find us on all major social media platforms, and we can't wait to share your ag story.